Man, oh man, do I love the world building of the ancient Magus' bride. It's truly impressive, because normally when you see series trying to focus on, like, romance and slice of life, and even if it's a fantasy story, typically writers don't like to, expand upon the world. They don't give a lot of good details. Even if writers take a lot of nods from other myth and folklore and stuff, not many writers typically like to go out of their way and expand upon the world in a very good way. And in this case, that's exactly what this episode was. And it makes me appreciate this series. Not just because I love the characters and I love the Ghibli style of the anime, and it's not even the art and animation, the music and stuff. There's a lot more going on here. And one of the big things that I truly love about this series is definitely the world building, because it makes it to where, like, it's not just these characters in a story, but they're in this very fascinating and big world that is very mysterious and always changing, and could change like that. And that's what makes the series so fun to watch, I think, each single week. Now, the world building I'm talking about, like, the Fairy King, the Fairy Queen, Titania, Oberon, hopefully I'm saying their names right, to, finding out that, a lot of, sorcerers, they're very, very, very racist and all that. And then also finding out about how, Titania, the Fairy Queen, how she doesn't like the Christian God. There's just very interesting details throughout this episode that just adds so much to the world, and adds to, like, whoa, I want to know more about this. Even if we didn't focus on Chisei, even if we didn't focus on Elias, I would love to see more about these certain elements of this series. And I think when a writer can make you invested in the world, besides just the characters, then they have a really good story. Because it's not just characters or even a good plot that makes a good story. It's also the world. That is a very big part of making good series. And it's one of the big reasons why I love Berserk so much. Berserk's world building is insane. It's not just the characters, but the world building is ridiculous. And I'm not saying that this series is at the level of Berserk, because it's very hard to reach that level. I'm just saying that this writer, I don't know who exactly writes The Ancient Magus' Bride, but the writer has done a fantastic job, a phenomenal job with handling the build-up and world building. So anyways, let's talk about one of the big things about this episode that really, really is going to catch everyone's eye. Elias's motive. Why he got Chisei in the first place. Now, we can't assume that his motives of wanting Chisei to be a new mage, that is very accurate. However, we found out more about his intentions, and all of these things that people have been complaining about, it does seem to be overall true, and let me explain. Many have been saying that Elias and, Chisei's relationship is very weird, because he's kind of like this parent figure that is manipulating and, like, completely messing with her mind. He's just destroying and mind warping her to the point to where she falls in love with him, and because, he's, being very nice to her. It's Stockholm Syndrome, basically. And in this case, many have been complaining about that. And in this episode, it is revealed that he has been, in some ways, manipulating Chisei. He has. And I like how straightforward the writer is about this, but also it shows, once again, how broken Chisei is as a character, or as a person. Let me explain. So, as Chisei's, tired out and all that, she's used her magic to purify the stuff from the last episode. She's tired, and Elias is carrying her and all that, and as he's carrying her, he starts to talk about certain things. Chisei's like, how long do I have to live? How many years or whatever, and he's like, you have 3 years, and he starts going into details. Basically, he's going to try to save her. I mean, not because he's a kind person, doesn't want to watch her die. It's basically an experiment. Since he is not necessarily human, obviously, he doesn't have human feelings. He doesn't have an understanding to how life and death is for, humanity. And so he can't really understand or comprehend the feelings of others. I mean, he might know what it is and what they're feeling, but he doesn't feel the exact same emotions. Like, if someone was to be very sad and upset, he doesn't feel that either. He doesn't feel sad and upset. He knows you're sad, but he just doesn't understand it, which makes him look kind of psychotic in a way. I mean, if this was a normal human being, like, for instance, if Ellis was a normal person, okay, let's not say he was like a fairy or a human, like a mix between both, or neither or. If he was a straight-up human, many would look at his character like he was a psychopath. He would be completely crazy. He's psychotic because this man doesn't comprehend human emotion. He has no morals. He has no moral compass whatsoever. That's what many would peg him as. However, since he is someone that is not human, he is not necessarily a fairy. He's like a shell or something compared to some other fairies and stuff. So he's not necessarily a normal entity in this world. He's very different. It lets us know that it's obvious why he doesn't have a proper understanding of humans in the first place. Now, if we get into details, though, when he's revealing these certain things, he's like, yeah, I've been, saying things that you want to hear. I've been, saying, like, hey, this is your home and all that. He's been very nice to her. He's been doing these things because he knows that she is someone that has not had a very good life. So he's saying things to make her happy, or she grows attached to him, for he can, have an easier time with her. So he does admit that he has been manipulating her since the very beginning. I mean, I don't think he's having bad intentions. I don't think he's trying to do it because he's evil. That's obvious. It's very obvious that he's not doing it because he's an evil individual. He just doesn't comprehend the morals and how bad it is to do something like that. Especially when we get to the scene where he's like, hey, I got an idea. Why don't I erase this memory for you? That's what he says to Chise. Now, that moment right there, many are going to be like, red flag, call the police, get out of here, because maybe like, this man wants to erase her memories. That's very scary, because that's basically saying if Chise doesn't agree with Alice in any way, he will erase her memory, and, she will be like his puppet. She will go around being a puppet for this man, and, she can't even argue at all, even if she didn't like him. He just erases memories that, she was having a problem with him, and there you go, everything is settled, everything is fine. So, that's a red flag. Many would be like, oh, that's not good at all. However, I want to point out that when he said that, once again, we got to remember what he is. He is a creature that doesn't comprehend what that truly means, to erase someone's memory. When you erase someone's emotions or memories, automatically, that kind of detaches and makes it to where they don't have, like, free will anymore. But once again, he doesn't probably understand that whatsoever. And I feel like this is probably what's going to make the series very engaging in the future, him understanding how to be more human. And since, if you have watched, like, the OVAs, obviously you know that Chise is more like Ellis's, teacher, human teacher. He's teaching her magic and stuff while she is teaching him how to be a human. So I feel like this is going to be a big concept throughout the story of him learning how to understand how she feels when she's sad, him gaining emotions, feeling sad, feeling heartbroken, feeling happiness. He's going to learn and gain these emotions throughout his journey and time he spends with Chise. So, like I said, it's a very interesting thing that's going on here with Ellis's character, and many might be quick to condemn the man and say, like, oh man, that's really weird and creepy, which it is. It's very creepy, and the writer acknowledges that it's creepy and weird, but it's very obvious after this episode that he doesn't actually love Chise. Like, he doesn't want to marry her. Like, that could eventually be a thing, but at this time, the words he said, he was just saying that to get her on his side. That's basically what it comes down to. He was just saying those things to make her feel at ease and happy. And now, her accepting what Ellis said in the first place, that's a whole new level of problems. Because we already know Chise is a very broken individual, so we know for a fact that if anyone was to show her kindness, she most likely would be happy. Regardless if it was fake happiness or kindness or whatever, she would probably be very happy regardless. Even if she was told that she was being lied to or manipulated, she probably wouldn't care because of her upbringing. She's just happy to finally meet someone that is actually kind to her. So that's a whole nother problem. Just Chise overcoming her wounds and accepting things like that. She needs to kind of grow from that. And I feel like Ellis is going to be the type of person to open her up and realize that she doesn't need to act that type of way. So let's get into the Fairy Queen and stuff. So the design-wise of the Fairy Queen, yo. Like, okay, I'm gonna talk about the Opie first. The plot. There was a lot of emphasis on that. And then physics. Okay, so, I'm just gonna say right now, in terms of Opie physics, that was probably one of the most realistic I've seen in anime. I mean, it wasn't completely realistic, obviously, but even then, though, it wasn't like a standard jiggle like you would normally see. Because the way it was done, the way the outfit was done, and, you know, drawn on the character, it emphasizes that. And I feel like that was the big point here. Now, talking about how the scene was focused on for a good, like, 15-20 seconds, that's a whole nother issue. That was just basically the animators wanting us to look at fan service, and I mean, that's just how anime is. But when it comes to the overall physics and stuff, I'm like, yo, that's kind of realistic in a certain way, so I give props to that. But her plot's very, how can I say, saggy. Very saggy. It definitely shows her age. Anyways, jokes aside, though. So anyways, let's talk about her other parts of her design. Her overall outfit, to the hair and all of that, to her attitude, her design, big fan. I hope this isn't the last time we actually see her, because I really like her voice actor, I like her role she played in this episode, and she seems very wise, and she has a lot of information, and I wonder what exactly she has over Elias and all of that. And it really is interesting when you find out that Elias is considered an outcast amongst her people. Even though she considers him one of her children, he's still considered an outcast. And he's not necessarily invited into the fairy world. So it makes you wonder what exactly happened in the past, and I can't wait for the writer in this anime to finally dive into that. However, though, I do say that I just love how the vibe of this episode felt very, very good. Like, the fantasy vibe to it. It felt like a legit fantasy. Like, normally when you see fairies, dwarfs, and stuff pop up in shows, there's not a good tone to it. And I feel like the way the tone of this episode is done, especially with the music and all that, when she was coming in and popping up and all that, it set a good tone to show that this is something very unique. This is definitely something you don't see every single day in this world. Even though there is a lot of fantasy creatures around, something like the Queen of Fairies coming out into the open and all that, you know, and meeting this human girl, obviously it's a very rare and unique sight. So that just goes to show that that scene was very important, and I love the emotions that was put into it. So yeah, that's about it. I mean, overall, we have a villain set up. We have where that sorcerer from the, you know, the previous arc popped up in this episode, most likely going to be the main antagonist of the series. I'm looking forward to it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How you feel about, you know, the latest episode of The Ancient Magus' Bride. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you hate this episode? If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. And if you like this video, please leave a like. And if you don't like the video, obviously, leave a dislike. Love you guys. Please be safe. Chibi out.